Announcements, none. Papers have been laid. Motion.
I move that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10.
The question is that all the business on today's order paper be exempted from the provisions of paragraph 2 of Standing Order 10. Those in favor? Those against, no? Aye. The ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, none. Public bills, second reading.
Honourable Dr. Ashno.
Mr. Speaker, sir, to start with, allow me to say a few words about the speech of the second member of constituency number 19 and the first member of constituency number 16. In his speech, the member from constituency number 19 stated that the council has failed in their responsibility, there is a scarcity of means, they have no fund for equipment, and they do not have enough financial means and have limited manpower. He even went far to say that the council are incompetent and just puppets. He also said that this bill is a nonsense. What this shows, Mr. Speaker, sir, is their arrogance. This government is not afraid of self-criticism. When we find something is not working properly, we won't hide. Rather, we will face it and bring the necessary improvement. Self-criticism is not something to be afraid of, but one must be bold and must realize one's own limitation. When we are aware of shortcoming, facing them is not a sign of weakness, but a sign of responsibility to improve the situation for the population. The LDA bill, which we had introduced a few years ago, is a good example. We have observed several anomalies in the construction of drain. Some of our existing drain network system needed to be upgraded to cater for the new normal, that is a recurrent heavy rain and flash flood. That's why we have centralized the construction of drain to get better coordination among the different stakeholders, that is the local government, RDA, NDU, that is to improve the situation. This is precisely, Mr. Speaker, sir, the aim of this present bill. We know there's a lack of coordination with the cleaning by the different agencies, the local authorities, RDAs, Ministry of Environment, tourism authorities, beach authorities, etc. This is why we are coming with a centralized body to coordinate the work so that we can improve the situation and clean our country properly. Regarding the honourable member of constituency number 16, from what I've listened, it's obvious that it is a speech of someone who has never had the opportunity to hold government responsibility. I'm surprised by her self-righteousness, pseudo-expert attitude, and super ego. A speech that is mark of sheer arrogance. Mr. Speaker, sir, arrogance is bliss. Coming back to the usual song, motion of no confidence against the government. I would like to remind them that the MMM has been in opposition from 2005 to 2022. That is 17 years continuously. Similarly, since their existence, that is from 1969 to 2022, that is in their 53 years of his existence, they have been in government for approximately 10 years only. That is, for 43 years, they were and are still dans Carocan. If this is not a motion of no confidence by the electorate against MMM, I wonder what it is, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, here we do not have our heads in the clouds, but rather we are down to earth and we face the reality as it is with its systemic shortcoming. Mr. Speaker, sir, speaking as a medical doctor, when treating our patient, at times there will be challenging such situation. If we need a second opinion or we have to change the treatment, we would readily do it because this will be in the best interest of our patient. One should have the courage and the humility to change when the needs arise. And we are not afraid to bring a new bill if the need arises. The Greek philosopher Heraclitus said, "The only constant in life is change. We are not afraid of change, especially when we know it will improve the living environment of our citizens and it will be in their best interests. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you allow me to come to the present bill, that is a National Environment Cleaning Authority bill. The threat to the environment, Mr. Speaker, is increasing day by day. And it is our duty to make Mauritius a clean and safe place to live and work. Whatever we undertake, we must bear in mind that it has an impact on the environment. The more so, it is our responsibility to take care of our ecosystem. Therefore, we on this side of the House welcome the introduction of this bill before this August Assembly. This bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, has objective inter alia to coordinate, monitor, and supervise the implementation of the approved cleaning program of public sites. Several legislation has been enacted by Parliament over the years, aiming for the cleaning and embellishment of various areas of our country. These may be summarized as follows. The Local Government Act empowers local authorities to clean and maintain public roads, provide scavenging services, cleaning and embellishment of the city, town, and villages, cleaning of rivers, canal, watercourses, and drains, cleaning of bare lands situated in the residential areas which have been left unattended by the owners. The Local Government Act further allows the Solid Waste Management Division of the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change to operate and maintain transfer station and landfill sites. The Beach Authority Act for the cleaning and embellishment of our public beaches and lagoons. The Tourism Authority Act caters for tourist sites, and the Road Development Authority Act for the cleaning along the motorways. Mr. Speaker, sir, no effort has been spared by this government in the provision of resources, be it financial, logistics, or manpower, to these above-mentioned agencies for cleaning and embellishment activities and for scavenging services. All these endeavors were undertaken in a bid to ensure a clean and safe environment for our population. In this context, more than 1.5 billion rupees is currently being spent on a yearly basis by the government to ensure a clean environment for our citizens. In addition, Mr. Speaker, sir, this government has invested massively in the procurement of vehicles, equipment, and the recruitment of additional workforce. Vehicle and equipment such as tipper lorries, backhoe loaders, dumpers have been procured for 147 million rupees by the ministry for local authorities in the financial year 2021. Furthermore, 17 tipper lorries are expected to be delivered in the forthcoming months. Another batch of 22 vehicles, including additional lorries, tipper lorries, backhoe loaders, and dumpers will be procured in the next financial year for an estimated cost of 300 million rupees. Mr. Speaker, sir, the agency is engaged in cleaning and embellishment activities is supposed to work in close collaboration to keep our island clean. It is in this particular context that in 2019, this government, under the leadership of the Prime Minister, someone who has always championed the protection of the environment and a clean Mauritius, set up a centralized cleaning coordinating committee, commonly known as the 3Cs Committee, under the aegis of my ministry. All the stakeholders, including the private sector such as Business Mauritius and ARIM, were represented in this committee, which was set up administratively. Its objective was, amongst others, to coordinate all government cleaning activities and embellishment program amongst all the agencies. It has significantly achieved its objective with organization of numerous major cleaning and embellishment activities, such as mega national cleaning and embellishment campaign in 2019, mega cleanup campaign in the context of the World Cleanup Day, bulky waste campaign, embellishment, and other activities island-wide. However, the officers servicing the 3Cs Committee could not dedicate the required time to the activities thereof, in view of the other duties and tasks that they have to perform, thus hampering the progress of this committee. It is therefore fitting to provide for an opposite legal framework whereby the NECA will be empowered to undertake, as and when required, cleaning and embellishment work, cause any cleaning and embellishment work to be carried out by the local authorities, the Road Development Authority, the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change, the Tourism Authority, and the Beach Authority, and other relevant stakeholders, to advise the Minister on cleaning and embellishment policies and strategies, and enable recruitment of full-time technical staff to meet additional objectives. Mr. Speaker, sir, cleaning and embellishment of our island is not the responsibility of the government only. It also encompasses private sector's responsibility and concerns every citizen in the country. The inclusion of mobilizing private sector support and NGO to complement the effort of public organization in the delivery of the cleaning and embellishment program is further welcome. This will undoubtedly act as a catalyst to foster a new breed of nature lovers who will strive for the preservation and promotion thereof. Hence, not only Business Mauritius and ARIM, which form part of the 3C Committee, but the assistance of a larger community-based activist will be leveraged by the NECA toward achievement of a cleaner and safer environment. Mr. Speaker, sir, our objective is not the embellishment of just certain parts of town and villages only, but rather it is a concerted and coordinated approach on both the urban and the rural regeneration. As such, the National Regeneration Program has been introduced and is expected to enhance the environment and amenities in the interest of residents, business, visitors, and promote more sustainable development pattern. This activity, which marks a paradigm shift in our model of urbanization and rural development, requires a specific and dedicated experienced staff. However, this cannot be achieved within the existing administrative framework. Hence, it is fitting to provide in this bill for the recruitment of full-time technical staff, such as landscape architect and other professionals, to meet our national agenda and objective, whilst at the same time enable us to meet our international undertaking for sustainable development goals. Therefore, with a view to providing for an increased coordination and improved monitoring among the various agencies engaged in cleaning and embellishment activities, the NECA is being set up and full-time experienced employee will be recruited accordingly. Mr. Speaker, sir, I think this is also the right time to consolidate our local government and spearhead towards a new phase of development. Since its coming into power, this government has provided a new impetus for the transformation of local authorities through various projects. Moreover, with a view to further enhance management efficiency, effectiveness, and improve service delivery in all sectors, including cleaning and scavenging service, this government has embarked on an array of digitalization projects and technological innovation through the I-Council project for the local authorities. The I-Council comprises use of global positioning system, geographical information system, and a tailor-made council project management software, including a specific module for scavenging service management, bareland management, drain management, and street lighting management. With the use of geographical information system, all the streets will be mapped in the system, and all private scavenging vehicles engaged in these activities will be equipped with GPS. This will enable real-time coordination and monitoring of these services to ensure timely provision thereof, with emphasis on a clean environment. This I-Council project has already been rolled in 5 local authorities and expected that the implementation thereof of the remaining 7 councils will be completed by the end of this year. This tool will be paramount to attaining our objective of a cleaner, greener, and safer Mauritius in a sustainable manner. The National Environment Cleaning Authority will also benefit from this system for the fulfillment of its objective. Mr. Speaker, sir, now I will address a few points of utmost importance which is the management of solid waste. According to official figures, Mauritius generates more than 500,000 tons of waste yearly, and same is disposed at Mexico's landfill station. However, the disposal of this waste is a major cause of concern in terms of safety and hygiene. Waste, if well managed, is nowadays considered as an asset and may contribute significantly in the circular economy. Government is working on a source separation of municipal solid waste project for composting and recycling. The implementation of this mega project will require proper planning and close monitoring by specific agency appropriately equipped. This is where the National Environmental and Cleaning Authority will play an important role, as the NECA will undoubtedly contribute in the achievement of the 3 R's, that is, reduce, reuse, and recycle. Therefore, the inclusion of this function in the present bill is welcome, Mr. Speaker. All 55 market fair falling under the authority of the Ministry of Local Government generate around 8,750 tons of vegetable waste yearly. Local authorities will also contribute in the circular economy through the composting of this green waste at 3 composting plants. The NECA will assist in the coordination of the source separation of municipal solid waste and contribute significantly in the achievement of this national objective. Mr. Speaker, sir, I can inform the House that a pilot project for the composting of market waste has already been issued a preliminary environmental report and will be constructed shortly. This environmentally sustainable project will witness optimal adherence to the 3 R's principle, as it will be solely powered by electricity generated from solar photovoltaic panel and will have a water harvesting system. The contribution of various implementing agencies under the respective legislation has been instrumental for cleaning of our island. However, the need for a legislative framework for, amongst others, coordinating, monitoring, and supervising the implementation of the approved cleaning program of the public side is fully justified, and I entirely support it. Mr. Speaker, sir, consolidation and harmonization of our existing laws in terms of tougher penalties and adoption of new systems and technologies is also imperative to meet this national objective. It is in this context that a technical committee has already been set up at the level of my ministry to work on the review of the Local Government Act. Wide consultation will be held with stakeholders prior to the finalization thereof. Mr. Speaker, sir, the question that arises is, how will the future generation remember us? As the saying goes, we cannot wait when the last tree has been cut down, the last fish caught, the last river poisoned, when the air we breathe is sickening. It is only then we will realize that the true wealth is not a matter of breaking out an asset, but rather the taking care of the environment that we live in. If we do not take care of Mother Nature now, sooner or later, its consequence will come to haunt us, Mr. Speaker. We do not have any choice. We have to invest in the preservation and the promotion of sustainable environment as a legacy for the next generation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the need to save our environment and to provide a better, cleaner, and safer place to live and work is of utmost priority. We are all aware of the degrading quality of our living environment, and we just need to open our eyes and see the telltale signs. The harsh weather conditions that we have witnessed recently is a proof that we have reached the tipping point and that our environment needs saving and securing more than ever. As we see, the occurrence of natural disasters and calamities are increasing nowadays, with ever-increasing loss of human life, not just in Mauritius, but also in many countries around the world. If we don't take immediate action, we will face a much more difficult, not to mention catastrophic situation in the future. The point which I have raised earlier, Mr. Speaker, sir, is not an exhaustive list, but clearly depicts the commitment of this government toward a cleaner, greener, and safer environment, and obviously the well-being of our population. The contribution of the various implementing agencies under their respective legislation has been instrumental for cleaning our island. However, the need for a comprehensive legislative framework for, amongst others, coordinating, monitoring, and supervising the implementation of the approved cleaning program of the public side is fully justified. The National Environment and Cleaning Authority Bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, is a stepping stone towards this objective, and we on this side of the House, we entirely support this bill. Thank you very much, sir.
Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, sir, let me first of all thank all the honourable members from both sides of the House who have taken the floor and have intervened during the debate on this landmark bill. I appreciate that many of the interventions were constructive in nature. The positive comments and suggestions made reflect the importance that we collectively place on a clean and healthy environment for Mauritians and visitors alike. As I have explained in my second reading speech, the objective of this bill is to have an authority that will be a one-stop shop for better coordination, results, and accountability in the cleaning and embellishment initiatives in the country. The National Environment Cleaning Authority will be an apex institution responsible for the development and implementation of a national cleaning strategy with an action plan for the island of Mauritius. Mr. Speaker, sir, members of the House will agree that this piece of legislation was long overdue. Mauritius being a prime tourist destination, we have to ensure that our environmental assets are preserved, our country kept clean, and our public places embellished as per the expectations of both Mauritians and our visitors. Our fellow citizens also expect that cleanliness and embellishment in the country reflect the level of modernity we have achieved and portray the improvement that we have made with regard to quality of life. Mr. Speaker, sir, with climate change and the resulting impact on our precious environmental assets, we need to be fast and efficient in addressing the issues linked with, for example, the flash floods and other extreme weather conditions. Our drains, our rivers and canals, our towns and villages, our streets, and other water-prone facilities have to be cleaned and maintained at all times. We need to be proactive and prepared to intervene wherever and whenever required. The bill has been drafted with a view to bringing together all the expertise and know-how of the relevant stakeholders with a view to ensuring that all actions pertaining to the cleaning and embellishment of Mauritius are in fact well coordinated. The National Environment Cleaning Authority legislation will definitely spare us from any duplication work and wastage of time, human resources, and public funds. Mr. Speaker, sir, some members of the opposition, particularly Honourable Joanna Béranger and Honourable Nagalingam, have tried to assert that the National Environment Cleaning Authority will usurp the powers or responsibilities of the local authorities and other authorities like the Road Development Authority and the Land Drainage Authority. Their stance does not surprise me, because it is in fact now in the DNA of the MMM, to oppose or discredit any initiative that comes from others. They have always wanted people to believe that apart from them, everybody else is either incompetent or has a sinister motive. But the rule of karma has been ruthless against them. And that explains where they are today, in the clutches of abject demagogy and frustration, now mainly frustration, I would say, and desperately clinging to anything that would bring them to power. Mr. Speaker, sir, I've done some research and go down to memory lane. I've found that the MMM had in 1988 made similar comments as we have heard last Tuesday. Intervening at Committee of Supply stage for the budget, the late Honorable Baligadu queried the then Prime Minister, Saniru Jagannath, as to why the National Development Unit had been transferred to the Prime Minister's office. He wanted to drive home that the transfer had an ill intent. He mentioned, and I quote, "I am inquiring whether through this unit special funds will be placed at the disposal of the private parliamentary secretaries, and through some disguised way, this unit will be utilized to fund I don't know what sort of project," unquote. Saniru Jagannath replied to him as follows, I quote, "The first answer is that I felt in love with the unit. Secondly, all the money will be spent in what is being voted in Parliament," unquote. Under the same item, the then Honorable Utim cast doubt on the role and functioning of the Citizens Advice Bureau under the Prime Minister's office, stating that they were supposed to be attached to ministries. He went on to say, I quote, "I hope it is not going to be a political agency," unquote. Time has, Mr. Speaker, sir, proved them wrong. The NDU, under the Prime Minister's office, has considerably contributed to reduce the disparity between the towns and villages. It has been complementing the work being done by the municipalities and the district councils. It continues now under the Ministry of National Infrastructure and Community Development to play an important role in improving public infrastructure and bringing the required amenities everywhere in the country, including roadways. Mr. Speaker, sir, time will again prove the MMM wrong. The National Environment Cleaning Authority will not take over the powers and responsibilities of the local authorities or any other authority. In fact, it will coordinate in a holistic manner the cleaning and embellishment exercise throughout the island. It will address gaps and bottlenecks in the system. The creation of the National Environment Cleaning Authority cannot in any way be interpreted as a disapprobation of any existing local authority or any other authority and the respective ministers or chairpersons. Monsieur le Président, l'honorable Johanna Béranger s'est permise de dire, je cite, « En réalité, la seule raison de la création de cette autorité est d'assurer la pérennité du MSM. » Fin de citation. Je pense, Monsieur le Président, que du côté du MMM, ils n'arrivent pas à dormir tant qu'ils sont désespérés en voyant ce gouvernement réaliser autant de projets et prenant autant d'initiatives. Qui vont dans le sens de l'amélioration de la qualité de la vie dans le pays. Cela en dépit de défis sans précédent imposés par le Covid-19 et maintenant par la guerre en Ukraine. Comme toujours, il voit des agendas sinistres dans chaque décision, dans chaque initiative. Je le dis une nouvelle fois, notre seul et unique agenda, c'est l'avancement du pays et de nos concitoyens. Et l'histoire reconnaît que ce sont des gouvernements menés par le MSM qui ont façonné l'île Maurice avant-gardiste dans lequel nous vivons. Et je tiens à dire à l'honorable Johanna Béranger que le MSM au gouvernement ne va jamais utiliser la cause environnementale pour concocter des deals secrets, comme l'a fait le MMM, pour collecter des pactoles réguliers, pour ne pas dire mensuels, afin d'assurer sa pérennité. Demandez à qui de droit, au sein de votre parti, ce que c'était le Roxane Deal de 2002. Demandez aussi où sont versés les pactoles dont j'ai fait mention. Sachez que la pourriture se trouve dans votre camp. Alors vous gagnerez à nettoyer votre propre cour. Allez demander, regardez derrière vous, l'honorable Amir va vous dire. Si vous voulez plus de détails. Mr. Speaker, sir, cleaning has always been a priority for my government. I have myself initiated and participated in a number of cleaning campaigns, but we must do more following the COVID-19 pandemic and the new challenges imposed by climate change. Presently, multiple agencies are involved in cleaning works in towns, villages, public beaches and lagoons, tourist sites, motorways, public roads, rivers, canals, and drains. And some of these activities are cross-cutting or overlapping with each other and require the intervention of several departments. For cleaning to produce sustained results, it is imperative to have an institutional and legal setup for a better coordination and concerted effort in the continuous implementation, monitoring, and management of cleaning around the island. Mr. Speaker, sir, to those members of the opposition who have chosen to pursue on the trail of systematic criticism of whatever government initiates, and who continue to drown themselves in the colorable waters of abject demagogy, let me remind them that zero action had been taken by them when they were in power, although they knew of the urgencies. Mr. Speaker, sir, some have stated that government is setting up another institution which entails more costs, and that it would serve to give jobs to political agents close to us. I have explained earlier that a coordinated approach is vital if we are to succeed in our endeavors for a cleaner and better embellished Mauritius. That can only be achieved if we have an apex body. I think any sensible person will understand that. As for the allegation in some quarters, particularly within the Labour Party, inferring that the National Environment Cleaning Authority will provide an opportunity to recruit political agents or people close to us, I can only refer these people to the avowment of a former private parliamentary secretary, Mr. Dhiraj Singh Kamaljit, who revealed the modus operandi of the Labour government with regard to recruitment in the public service. He said at that time there were sharks of the Labour Party who were contacting their people even if they had not applied for a job, even on Saturdays. They must be working overtime at that time to make sure they get recruited. That was the sort of nepotism that was rife during the reign of the Labour Party, and they dare point their fingers at us. I think they should look at themselves in the mirror. As for this government, Mr. Speaker, sir, we ensure deserving people are recruited. I can say without hesitation that people are recruited because of their merit. Some of our political supporters and followers always, in fact, complain in so many cases where they have been saying, well, there are other people who have been recruited of different political opinion and so on. Well, I need not say what we see from time to time also. But I tell them always that we are working for everybody alike, and we do not discriminate on those who deserve a job. And I can assure the House that we shall never depart from that stance. Mr. Speaker, sir, let me add that the bill has been prepared in consultations with all key partners, including the Ministry of Local Government and Disaster Risk Management, the Ministry of Environment, Solid Waste Management and Climate Change, the Beach Authority, the Land Drainage Authority, the Road Development Authority, and the Tourism Authority. And I would like to seize this opportunity to convey my sincere appreciation to all those ministries and institutions. Mr. Speaker, sir, this bill marks a new milestone to make Mauritius cleaner and more attractive. If we are to truly move the needle, all stakeholders must play their part on cleanliness, including our fellow citizens, who must also assume their responsibilities. This is not just about safeguarding public health, but also about building a more gracious society. Ultimately, cleanliness and public hygiene is a collective responsibility. I appeal to one and all to join hands in making Mauritius a truly clean and livable home and instill a national culture of cleanliness. Good public hygiene will help us get over the current pandemic and be better prepared for any future outbreak. With these words, Mr. Speaker, sir, I commend the bill to the House.
Seconded.
Public Bill Committee stage.
The question is that the National Environment Cleaning Authority Bill number 5 of 2022 be read the second time. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it.
Committee stage. Clause 1, short title. Clause 2, interpretation. Clause 3, authority. Clause 4, objects of authority. Clause 5, functions of authority. Clause 6, powers of authority. Clause 7, the board. Clause 8, meetings of board. Clause 9, committees. Clause 10, director. Clause 11, staff of authority.
The question is that clauses 1 to 11 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Ayes have it.
Clause 12, general fund. Clause 13, estimates. Clause 14, annual report. Clause 15, powers of minister. Clause 16, protection from liability. Clause 17, execution of documents. Clause 18, exemptions. Clause 19, donations. Clause 20, seal of authority. Clause 21, offences. Clause 22, regulations. Clause 23, consequential amendment. Clause 24, transitional provisions. Clause 25, commencement.
The question that clauses 12 to 25 stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Ayes have it.
Title and enacting clause.
The question is that the title and enacting clause stand part of the bill. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Ayes have it. The final question is that I do report to the House that the National Environment Cleaning Authority Bill number 5 of 2022 has passed a committee stage without amendment. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. The ayes have it. Please be seated. Honourable members, I have to report to the House that the National Environment Cleaning Authority Bill number 5 of 2022 has passed a committee stage without amendment.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the National Environment Cleaning Authority Bill number 5 of 2022 be read a third time and passed.
Seconded.
The question is that the National Environment Cleaning Authority Bill number 5 of 2022 be read the third time and passed. Those in favor say aye, those against say no. Aye. Ayes have it.
Second reading, the Supplementary Appropriation 2021-2022 Bill.
Honourable members, I wish to draw your attention that debate on the bill must be confined to the reasons as to why the extra money is being sought in regard to the votes of expenditure as specified. Oh, you want me to speak in the loudspeaker? You prefer the loudspeaker? Okay. I wish to draw your attention that debate on the bill must be confined to the reasons as to why the extra money is being sought in regard to the votes of expenditure specified in the schedule and for the period specified therein. Honourable members should therefore stand guided accordingly, and I request the Honourable Minister not to open the debate on extraneous matters. I now call Dr. the Honourable Padiachi.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I move that the Supplementary Appropriation 2021-2022 Bill number 13 of 2022 be read a second time. This bill makes provision for a supplementary appropriation of 9,500 billion rupees under 5 votes of expenditure in respect of services of government for the financial year 2021-2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, in June last year, the House had voted a total sum of 145.7 billion rupees for financial year 2021-2022 under 72 votes of expenditure through the Appropriation 2021-2022 Act of 2021. However, the sums appropriated under 5 votes of expenditure will be insufficient to meet expenditure up to end June 2022. This is essentially due to some unforeseen expenditure and developments of the presentation of the 2021-2022 budget, such as implementation of the PRB report. Honourable members will recall that Section 105(3)(a) of the Constitution stipulates that where in any financial year it is found that the amount appropriated by the appropriation law for the purposes included in any head of expenditure, also known as vote of expenditure, is insufficient, or that a need has arisen for expenditure for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by the appropriation law, then a supplementary appropriation bill need to be introduced in the Assembly to provide for the appropriation of those sums. Thus, in line with Section 105(3)(a) of the Constitution, supplementary appropriations are required in respect of those 5 votes of expenditure where funds will be insufficient. Mr. Speaker, sir, the 5 votes are listed in the schedule to the bill together with the respective sums. Details on the items of expenditure concerned, as well as explanatory notes thereon, are set out in the estimates of supplementary expenditure that has already been tabled in the National Assembly. Mr. Speaker, sir, I will now elaborate on the supplementary appropriation of 9.5 billion rupees. First, 300 million rupees is required under Vote 7.1, Ministry of Finance, Economic Planning and Development, to enable the Mauritius Revenue Authority to meet costs associated with the implementation of its salary review exercise with effect from 1st July 2020. Second, 280 million rupees is needed under Vote 8.1, Ministry of Energy and Public Utilities, to compensate the Central Electricity Board the revenue foregone following implementation of a subsidy on electricity tariff for a 12-month period as from 1st January 2022. Third, 2.5 billion rupees is required under Vote 18.1, Ministry of Health and Wellness, essentially to cater for the following: 490 million rupees to pay hotels that were used as quarantine centers during the period March to September 2021 following the resurgence of COVID-19 virus in Mauritius. 510 million rupees for payment of allowances such as night duty allowance, bank nurse allowance, and in-attendance allowance to eligible officers in line with PRB report. 600 million rupees for the payment of overtime to officers who worked in quarantine centers and ENT hospital in connection with COVID-19 pandemic. 700 million rupees mainly for purchase of PCR test kits, rapid antigen test kits, and other medical disposals related to COVID-19, and 200 million rupees for acquisition of various laboratory devices and supplies. Fourth, 520 million rupees is necessary under Vote 23.1, centrally managed expenses of government, to accommodate encashment of passage benefits by civil servants and increase in contribution towards the defined contribution pension scheme following implementation of the PRB report. Last but not least, 5.9 billion rupees is required under Vote 24.1, centrally managed initiatives of government as follows: 3.1 billion rupees to cater for the increase in salaries of civil servants and officers working in parastatal bodies, local authorities, and Rodrigue Regional Assembly following implementation of the 2021 PRB report with effect from 1st January 2021. The implementation of the report is estimated to cost 4.3 billion rupees annually. However, for the current financial year, a sum of 6.8 billion rupees will be needed due to payment of the arrears for the financial year January to June 2021 in this financial year. Second, 2.5 billion rupees for contribution to the COVID-19 Project Development Fund to ensure smooth implementation of the flood management program over the next 3 years. And finally, 300 million rupees in connection with SDR transactions following the request of IMF to pay USD equivalent of SDR of 5 million to finance a purchase by Suriname on 25 March 2022. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wish to inform the House that bulk of this supplementary appropriations will be offset by underspending in other votes of expenditure. As such, the budget deficit for the current financial year will be around 5% of GDP as budgeted. Public sector debt, on the other hand, will be around 88% of GDP. With these remarks, Mr. Speaker, sir, I now commend this bill to the House.
And then, Honorable Putin.
Mr. Speaker, sir, once again we are being asked to ratify expenditure already incurred by government. Expenditure that was not budgeted last year. Once again, we are presented with effet accompli. Because government knows that its parliamentary majority will ratify any expenditure, government has given itself a license to spend outside what has been approved in the budget. I agree that there may be unexpected expenditures which could not have been foreseen at the time of the budget. But when we take a closer look at the estimate of the supplementary expenditure, the bulk of the expenditure could and should have been foreseen when last year's budget was prepared. The government even knew at that time that they would implement the PRB report. In fact, at paragraph 361 of the budget speech, one could read, and I quote, "We are providing funds this year for the implementation of the PRB report." So this was known to the Honourable Minister of Finance at the time he presented his budget last year. So why are we being asked today to approve additional expenditure to the tune of 9.5 billion rupees? We're not talking about a couple of 100 million rupees. We're talking about 9.5 billion rupees. Were these expenditure really not foreseen? Was the additional expenditure the result of poor planning? Or did government deliberately understate its estimated expenditure last year to understate the budget deficit? In last year's budget speech, the Honourable Minister announced that the budget deficit would be expected to reach 5.6%, and today he has just confirmed that these figures still stand because of underspending on other budgeted items. But the fundamental question we should ask, Mr. Speaker, sir, is how will this, or how has this 9.5 billion additional expenditure been financed? How much additional revenue has been collected in form of taxes to finance that 9.5 billion rupees? The amount of tax as at 30th of June 2021, at the time the budget was approved, on each litre of mogas was 18.81 rupees. I'm talking only about excise and VAT, not the contribution. Today, it is 21.86 rupees, 16.2% increase. When it comes to diesel, it's even worse. Last year, the amount of tax, excise duty, and VAT on each litre of diesel was 9.50 rupee. Now it is 11.81 rupee, which represents 24.2% increase in revenue collection. So when the Honourable Prime Minister during the weekend goes and says that petroleum prices are being increased to avoid STC becoming bankrupt, he should say the whole truth. He should say how much money is filling the coffers of this government each time there is an increase in price of petroleum product. 25% increase in taxes on each litre of diesel and 16% increase in taxes on each litre of gas oil, of l'essence. But the increase in tax is not sufficient to pay for the 9.5 billion rupees in additional expenditure. So where will the money come from? it will come from loans. And the Honourable Minister of Finance has just announced that public sector debt will reach 88% of GDP. I hope he will give the breakdown because this figure has been contested by the World Bank in its, by the International Monetary Fund in its latest report. So the question that the population must ask itself is the following. Was the additional 9.5 billion rupees spent by this government justified? And should we, the people, have to reimburse the debt which this government is incurring and putting on the shoulders of future generations because of this additional expenditure? So let's turn to the specific expenditure to see whether they were avoidable, unforeseeable, or whatnot. Almost half of the supplementary expenditure relate to the implementation of the PRB report. Monsieur le Président, le rapport du PRB a été publié en octobre de l'année dernière. Le Premier ministre, animant une conférence de presse, avait alors indiqué que les recommandations du PRB, qui tournent autour de 6,5 milliards de roupies, seront applicables à partir de janvier 2021. À partir de janvier 2021. Or, dans le manifeste électoral de l'Alliance mauricienne, en bonne position parmi les 15 mesures fortes, on pouvait lire, et je cite, « Le prochain rapport du PRB prendra effet à partir de janvier 2020. » Janvier 2020, pas janvier 2021. Durant la campagne électorale, vous avez mené les fonctionnaires en bateau en leur promettant que le rapport du PRB prendra effet à partir du janvier 2020 et non pas à partir de janvier 2021. D'ailleurs, dès janvier 2020, les fonctionnaires avaient obtenu une augmentation de 1 000 roupies comme une avance. Vous n'avez pas tenu promesse, Monsieur le Premier ministre, une fois de plus. Les grands perdants sont les fonctionnaires ayant pris leur retraite en 2020. Ils ne bénéficieront pas d'une révision de leur pension. Par contre, avec le PRB est venue la contribution sociale obligatoire pour les fonctionnaires, ce que main droite a obtenu comme augmentation salariale, main gauche a dû le rembourser en partie en forme de contribution sociale. Mr. Speaker, sir, the next big item of supplementary expenditure relates to the Ministry of Health and Wellness. We are being asked to approve the payment of some 490 million rupees, almost $500 million rupees, to hotels used as quarantine centers during the period March to September 2021. First of all, we should ask ourselves, why are we being asked to pay, to ratify expenditure in this financial year for the period March 2021 to September 2021, when this supplementary appropriation bill relates to expenditure incurred for financial year 2021-2022, meaning for expenditure incurred for the financial year starting 1st of July 2021, ending 30th of June 2022. So why are we being asked today to approve expenditure incurred for another financial year? How much of this 490 million rupees relate to expenditure incurred before 1st July 2021? Because here we're asked to approve some expenditure ranging from March to September. Shouldn't the expenditure incurred between March and June be the subject of a supplementary appropriation bill for financial year 2021? Or does the Honourable Minister of Finance think that it is possible in this financial year to ratify expenditure incurred in another financial year? So I hope the Honourable Minister of Finance can give some clarification during his summing up. There has been numerous speakers, Mr. Speaker, sir, on this subject, and we were told that the high-level committee chaired by the Prime Minister had assigned the responsibility to arrange for quarantine centres for returning Mauritian passengers to the Ministry of Tourism with the collaboration of the Mauritius Tourism Promotion Agency. And it was the Deputy Prime Minister and Minister of Tourism who has been answering PQs each time we ask about hotels being used as quarantine centers. But today, we are told to vote 490 million rupees under the Ministry of Health and Wellness, not under the Ministry of Tourism, not amount paid to MTPA. So we want to know why. Is it no longer the Mauritius Tourism Promotion Agency who is in charge of dealing with hotels used as quarantine? Who took the decision? When was it taken? Why was it taken? Were the hotels used for quarantine for the financial year 2021-2022 the same as the hotels that was used during the first confinement? What was the procurement method used to select those hotels? Did the Ministry of Health and Wellness receive any negative representation from people who stayed at these hotels? Was, for example, the ministry satisfied with the quality of the food that was served in those hotels? It was widely reported in the press and on social media last year that dialysis patients were given biryani, min-free, sashimi pomme d'amour, which at 11 o'clock at night, which was totally unfit for their diet. Has the ministry taken any action against this hotel? Or are we being asked to pay 490 million rupees to the hotels when we're not satisfied with the service and the quality of food that they've served? So we have to know the right to know, Mr. Speaker, sir, what procurement method has been used to select the hotels, and more importantly, did we get value for money? This brings me to the next item of expenditure, medical, disposable, and minor equipment. Initially, an amount of 500 million was budgeted. Now we are asked to vote an additional amount of 700 million rupees, which represent 140% more than was budgeted. 140% more. So from June last year to this year, there has been an increase of 140% more in the purchase of what? PCR test kits and rapid antigen test kits. So do you really want this House to believe that last year the ministry did not anticipate how many PCR tests and rapid antigen tests they would require? And the budget was voted last year after the second wave of confinement. So they knew, they were not taken by surprise by COVID. So now that the purchase has been done, who supplied those PCR test kits and rapid antigen test kits? Jewelers, owners of Kinkari, suppliers who did not have d'huile aux oreilles? Surely the ministry did not have recourse to emergency procurement because there was no emergency, or did it? Were those medical supplies supplied by registered, trusted suppliers after competitive bidding? Surely the ministry would not be able to use the same argument that they used to justify the procurement exercise, that they were saving lives. And I hope the Honourable Minister has taken good note of what the Director of Audit had stated in his report last year, and I quote, "Nothing justifies the flouting of the principle of good governance, especially when it involves public funds." Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, the same comments apply to the additional 200 million rupees that we are asked to vote to approve for various equipments and supplies. Again, a budget overrun of 75%. We approved a budget of 260 million last year, and now we are told that we ended paying 460 million for these suppliers. So again, we'd like to know from the Honourable Minister, who are these suppliers? Are we dealing with pack and blister again? Do all these equipment work? During the Committee of Supply, the Honourable Minister will have to provide a detailed list of all those equipment that was purchased, the name of the suppliers, and the procurement method used to acquire those equipments. We're also being asked, Mr. Speaker, sir, to approve payment of 280 million rupees to Central Electricity Board as subsidy on electricity tariff. The amount of subsidy ranged between 6 and 10% of the electricity bill of a number of households and was supposed to last until the end of this year. According to the financial statement of the CEB on its website, the latest one, which is the accounts for the financial year ending June 2020, as at 30th of June 2020, CEB, listen to that, CEB had an accumulated surplus of 20 billion rupees and reserve of 7.8 billion rupees. Just for that year, 2019-2020, it had realized a profit, a surplus of 816 million rupees. So at the beginning of this financial year, the CEB was financially in a very healthy position. It had the financial muscle to absorb the increase in fuel prices resulting from the war between Ukraine and Russia. It had the financial muscle to absorb the 20% depreciation in the price of rupees. And now we are told that we've had to pay 280 million rupees to CEB as subsidy. The population need to know the truth. How come the CEB, which had a very good financial position, is in a situation where we have to now pay subsidy to CEB? The population deserves the truth, Mr. Speaker, sir. The population deserves to know how much money did the government take from CEB to finance its expenditure for 2020 till today. Gouverner, c'est prévoir. How could government take away the reserve and surplus of CEB to finance its budget deficit? And now that the government has taken away the surplus and reserves of CEB, who will pay for an increase in the price of fuel? Us, the population? Would you blame the Ukraine-Russian war for an increase in electricity tariff? Or would you, government, be honest to acknowledge that you have looted the reserves of CEB just like you have looted the reserve of STC and you have looted the reserve of the Bank of Mauritius? Mr. Speaker, sir, the last item of expenditure that I would like to comment upon relates to the transfer of 2.5 billion rupees to the COVID-19 Project Development Fund. Last year, we voted an amount of 8.5 billion rupees, and we were required to vote an additional 2.5 billion. The fund was set up in April 2020. According to the estimate in last year's budget, the opening balance as at 1st July 2022 was 18.16 billion rupees. I repeat, you've heard me well. There was, at the beginning of this financial year, 18.1 billion rupees of unspent money in that fund. And you had budgeted 8.5 billion rupees from the consolidated fund, plus revenue of 8.6 billion. Therefore, the total amount of money in that fund was 26.7 billion rupees. And you had estimated expenditure of 11.6 billion rupees. So as at 30th of June 2022, you have estimated a balance of 15 billion rupees in that fund. So if you have estimated that there will be 15 billion rupees in that fund, why are we transferring more money to that fund? Why are we transferring 2.5 billion rupees to that fund? We know that you had budgeted 10 billion rupees out of this fund to pay for the construction of social housing. You have not spent 1 rupee on these construction of social housing. So there is a lot of money already in that fund. Why are we being asked to pay more money into that fund? And when we read the small print in your estimate, what is this 2.5 billion rupees going to be used? I quote, provision required for contribution to fund to ensure smooth implementation of the flood management program over the next 3 years. You already have 15 billion rupees. You want to put 2.5 more billion rupees to spend over the next 3 years. But Mr. Minister of Finance, today the priority of the people is to eat, is to lower cost of living. With 2.5 billion rupees, you could have used that money to increase old age pension. You could have used it to give food vouchers to people and vulnerable. You could have used it to reduce the price of petroleum products. But unfortunately, this government is completely coupé de la réalité. It's a government that simply couldn't care less. Thank you.
Honorable Juman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. It's a shame, Mr. Speaker, sir, a shame that at a time when we were expecting a mini-budget, or at least some urgent measures, much-needed measures to help the Mauritian population, who is deeply suffering and who cannot eat his fill, to overcome these tough times, we are here debating on 9.5 billion, which have been most probably squandered. As has always been the case with this government. Alors qu'on est en train de jongler avec des chiffres par millions, excusez-moi, par milliards, le peuple sont victimes d'une violence économique sans précédent. 9,5 milliards est une somme colossale. Une somme colossale qui a été dépensée, probablement même dilapidée, sans avoir été au préalable votée par le Parlement. Et maintenant, on vient de nous demander d'y donner notre bénédiction, alors que nous, de ce côté de la Chambre, sommes totalement opposés à ce que des fonds publics d'un montant aussi conséquent soient utilisés en passant par l'imposte. Le fait qu'on nous demande de voter cette somme faramineuse additionnelle démontre clairement la mauvaise gestion économique et manque de prévoyance du ministre des Finances. C'est une preuve flagrante que notre économie est gérée avec amateurisme et incompétence. Gouverner, c'est prévoir. Ce gouvernement ne l'a pas encore appris, selon toute évidence, malgré la motion de blâme dont il a fait l'objet tout récemment. Comme il y a le ministre de la Santé qui va intervenir juste après moi, je veux me consacrer sur l'item de la santé publique 18.1 et j'attends que le ministre apporte des éclaircissements à des questions qui vont être soulevées. De ce 9,5 milliards additionnels, le ministère de la Santé va bouffer 2,5 milliards de roupies. Et cela en sus du budget alloué 13,1 milliards qui lui avait été initialement accordé dans le dernier budget. Ce qui fait que la santé a engorgé au total 15,6 milliards de roupies. 15,6 milliards, Monsieur le Président, alors que la santé publique fait toujours face à une sérieuse pénurie des médicaments. Une sérieuse pénurie de médicaments depuis plusieurs mois. Et je peux soumettre une liste au ministre de la Santé s'il n'est pas au courant. Monsieur le Président, pénurie de médicaments parce que d'après le règlement, d'après les procédures établies du ministère, le Annual Procurement Plan, l'appel d'offres annuel devait être lancé en avril de l'année 2021 pour l'exercice financier 2021-2022. Mais j'attends que le ministre vienne nous éclaircir dessus. Pourquoi l'appel d'offres a été lancé seulement en décembre 2021, soit 8 mois plus tard? Pourquoi? Qui protéger? Et pendant ces 8 mois, à part les pénuries que je viens de vous dire, il y a eu aussi Emergency Procurement. Pour protéger qui? Des centaines de millions de roupies de médicaments ont été achetés suivant les procédures d'Emergency Procurement. Monsieur le Président, la COVID-19 aura une fois de plus les deux larges. Mais je veux vous dire exactement pourquoi COVID-19 ne peut pas être tenu responsable de la gabegie, de la mauvaise gouvernance et des manigances concernant les contrats pour remplir les poches des copains, copines, familles, entre autres. Monsieur le Président, allons à l'item 18.1. Pour les centres de quarantaine. Le ministre demande un budget additionnel de 490 millions de roupies, en sus de 1,5 milliard déjà alloués pour les centres de quarantaine. 1 milliard 990 000 roupies. Voilà ce que le rapport l'audit nous dit. Out of 205 million paid for quarantine charges as of June 2021, which we have been asked to approve now, invoice for payment totaling 198 million were neither certified, correct, by the medical health officers in the quarantine facilities, nor cross-verified with the database of the CDCU for payment. 198 million rupees out of 205 million rupees. 95%. Ni vérifiés, ni contre-vérifiés ont été payés. Et vous savez, Monsieur le Président, je vous donne la réponse du ministère. Je vous donne la réponse du ministère. There were no discrepancies in figures. In fact, the discrepancies were in the number of days the persons were quarantined in hotels according to the codes. No discrepancies in figures. Discrepancies in the number of days. They went further and say, action would be initiated by the finance section to recoup the overpayment made. À ce jour, combien on a récupéré, Monsieur le ministre? On doit savoir. On est en train de parler de centaines de millions de roupies. On doit savoir où est l'argent, combien on a récupéré overpayment. Oui, ça vous fait rire. C'est pour cela 80% de la population n'approuve pas l'action du gouvernement. C'est pour cela dont vous êtes fiers. Même sondage qui est cité là. Monsieur le Président, Voilà ce qui est dit encore. De 24 out of 24 quarantine facilities and treatment centers, 14 facilities, treatment centers has not, contract with them has not yet been signed, yet already paid, more than 60%. Et c'est comme ça, c'est pour cela qu'on n'est pas d'accord, Monsieur le Président. Et Monsieur le Premier ministre, il nous dit qu'il dépense chaque sou comme si c'est son argent. Et Monsieur le ministre Alan Ganou demande à la population de comprendre. Comment comprendre? Comment comprendre 95% payés? Et le ministère lui-même, il dit, peut-être il y a un problème, et on va reprendre l'argent avec les fournisseurs. Voilà, Monsieur le Premier ministre, voilà ce que votre ministre est en train de faire. Je sais que peut-être que vous n'êtes pas au courant. « 7,3 millions payés aux traiteurs pour les nourritures. » Mon collègue vient de dire. C'est ce qu'on a vécu dans les centres de quarantaine avec les patients dialysés. 7,3 millions payés aux traiteurs. On ne sait pas qui. Les nourritures sans que les procédures d'allocation de contrat ont été suivies. Des allocations de l'ordre de 10,6 millions à 16 médecins du ministère de la Sécurité sociale. Là, on nous demande d'approuver des overtime. 16 médecins, 100 jours, 10,6 millions. Et vous savez, voilà ce que le ministère nous dit. The Ministry of Health and Wellness had recommended that all regional public health superintendents should ensure that health workers do not have to work again after 14 or 21 days after quarantine. Yet, we have one doctor who has been working for 221 days consecutively. That's how our minister is governing his ministry. Monsieur le Président, le fameux molnupiravir. J'attends ce que le ministre vienne nous confirmer ça. Est-ce qu'il y a un accord qui a été signé la semaine dernière entre CPN, le fournisseur, et le ministère de la Santé? Le ministère va garder 500 000 comprimés au coût de 40 millions de roupies qui vont être expirés dans les jours à venir. 40 millions de roupies vont être jetés par la fenêtre. Il faut payer pour débarrasser 40 millions de roupies molnupiravir. Viennent nous confirmer ça. Monsieur le Premier ministre, c'est pas un sou qu'on parle là, on est en train de parler des millions de roupies là. Viens nous dire ça, monsieur le ministre. Il y a aussi l'item Laboratory Apparatuses and Suppliers. Vous êtes en train de solliciter pour un additionnel de 200 millions de roupies. Et il faut venir nous dire, monsieur le ministre, vous avez acheté des appareils pour faire des tests Covid-19 dans les hôpitaux régionaux. Les appareils ont été livrés en juin de l'année dernière. Pourquoi, en pleine Covid, on n'a pas utilisé les appareils? Et ce n'est qu'en février, lorsqu'il y a 2, 3, 10 cas dans les hôpitaux, qu'on est en train d'utiliser les appareils. pour payer des laboratoires privés, c'est pour cela. Si je continue, Monsieur le Président, ça devait être très long. Et l'autre jour, mon ami, mon collègue, Maïnganga Pausat, pose une question à l'honorable ministre, lui demande, pour l'année 2020, ce jour, combien de médicaments on a qui ont été expirés, périmés. Le ministre nous vient de nous dire qu'il est en train de compiler les chiffres. Alors qu'il a la veille, il a eu 2 réunions, le chiffre à la main, 200 millions de roupies des médicaments périmés. Viennent nous confirmer, monsieur le ministre, 2020 ce jour. Pourquoi vous cachez à la Chambre? Vous savez pourquoi je sais tout ça? Pourquoi je sais ce qui s'est passé à l'ICTA? Parce que ce gouvernement is in office, no more in power. Voilà la réalité. Moi, je ne veux pas dire casser des omelettes pour faire des œufs. Je ne veux pas dire ça. Mais si quelqu'un qui peut casser des omelettes pour faire des œufs, qui qualifie ce même ministre de la Santé de meilleur ministre que notre pays ait connu, ben, jugez vous-même. Merci, Monsieur le Président.
Honourable members, I'll suspend the sitting for 1 hour and a half.